Oh, I love that. What is it?
That's like a theater thing where you loosen up your face.
Is that what they do? All right. That'll be like a blooper. They're going to think, these people are crazy.
That's
We're
right.
not going to listen to them. So today we're going to talk about the cost of homeschooling. There is so much misinformation out there on the internet about what homeschooling costs. We have done it, so we want to make sure that we break down the costs, and so you can have a proper expectation of what these things will cost. And we're also going to give you some ways on how to save money without compromising your child's education. So the most important thing is the age of your child. That's going to be the number one factor when it comes to costs.
That's true. The number of children you have in your home and their ages, because it is usually less expensive to have younger children, and you can control those costs a little better, and also you don't have to buy extra scientific equipment like microscopes or dissection samples and things like that.
So what would you say a parent of an elementary school age child, what's a range that they would expect to spend?
Well, if I were homeschooling a very young child today, kindergarten to second grade, I would plan to spend around $2,000 US. You can do it a lot less than that, but if you're going to get quality material, also if you don't have experience as a teacher and you are relying on the scope and sequence plan of your curriculum, all of this can be mitigated. The cost can be mitigated by the different, by your level of expertise. But if you're having to rely on your curriculum provider for scope and sequence, for what they're going to learn in that year that prepares them for the next grade level, and the skills that they need to master in order to proceed to the next grade level, the more you have to rely on a professional curriculum to provide you with those things, the more expensive it will be, because it's cost a lot more to produce that kind of curriculum.
So the big cost, the primary cost is going to be the curriculum then?
Yes, other than initial setup costs. You might have, if you're starting from scratch and you're buying desks and marker boards and a printer and computers, all of those things that are used from year to year initially are going to cost money, but if you buy good quality desks and chairs, they're going to last you for a while. But curriculum-wise, you can control the cost somewhat, but the younger children are going to cost less.
But I just want to make a note on, I know some people will try to save money on the curriculum, and obviously everyone's budget is different, so if you just cannot get one of the higher level quality curriculums, that's okay. You can still give your child a good education. But if you can, we strongly recommend that you invest the money to get a curriculum. And a lot of the curriculums, for example, I know Bob Jones, they offer payment plans. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you have to just cough up $2,000, right then and there. You can do a payment plan, and it is worth it. I mean, it's from trying to just pull free stuff off the internet yourself, or as opposed to just having a curriculum that's laid out for you, mm-hmm. and that is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. It is definitely worth it. And just check on some of the curriculums. So Alpha Omega is another good one, mm-hmm. and they also offer a payment plan. So just make sure you do your research, and that's why we say it over and over again. Please do not go into this just to save money. Remember, this is your children's future, and we want to make sure that they've got the best shot possible.
Yes, I've used a variety of curriculums, from many different companies, and also many different subject levels, and you will get what you pay for, usually. And the more expensive the curriculum, sometimes they have wonderful teacher helps for you. If you feel like this is new to you and you don't know how to present, how do you introduce multiplication facts to a first grader? Or, how do you do that in a way that is simple enough for them to understand, and yet they're getting the concept of multiplication?
She means third graders for multiplication.
Okay. Most of the, they're going to be advanced because they're homeschooled.
True.
But most of the curriculums will even give you a scripted idea of what to say, how to introduce new concepts. When you're teaching phonics, how to present that material and say the sound of the particular letter that you're teaching. And they'll have many ideas of how to make that fun and engaging for your child, and yet in a way that it is sticking in their mind and that they're really getting the material. One way you can save, if you need to, is that if you find a curriculum that is just dynamite, but you can't afford the full program, then spend the money on those core subjects. Buy your math, your English, science, and history use the more expensive curriculum for those core subjects, and especially on the phonics and reading end and the math end. You want your child to have a solid foundation. If your child can read, they can learn anything.
Amen.
If they have basic math concepts, they can learn new ones, more advanced mathematic concepts. But if they don't know a number line, what a number line is, and they don't know basic formulas by the time they're a certain age, or, you're going to really hinder them in their progression in school. So you can spend the money on those core subjects.
And so then we talked about second grade. So let's do from third to sixth grade. What should a parent realistically expect to spend per student per year?
I would say, maybe from $2,000 to $3,000.
The same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, did I say 2 to 3 for the young ones?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think until you get into where you're having to purchase a lot of equipment, science equipment, the cost is probably relatively going to stay the same unless you need to introduce private tutors. Then that's going to add to your cost. And usually the older your child gets and the more complicated the subject matter is, or the more particular, if you need expert musicians to teach music, if you need somebody who's got a degree in physics to teach physics, of course you're going to spend more money on those things as well.
And we want to mention, as far as with the tutor, because I know you might be, I don't need a private tutor. Well, especially if you've got like 3 or 4, and let me tell you, a tutor, even if you do have the expertise, a tutor can be a very nice break to be able to, and you also want to have your child hearing different perspectives and not yours. Now another thing is co-op fees. So what are the co-op fees that typically they could expect to pay?
Well, that I really can't answer. The co-ops I was a part of were parent co-ops, and they did not have fees because the requirement was that if your child attended the co-op, the parent had to be involved. And it was not optional. You couldn't drop your child off, or you couldn't be working and have your child transported to the co-op. The parents were required. You could not join the co-op unless you were going to be involved and actively involved. Every parent had to teach something. We had certain topics in like people who could cook. They tied that to geography, and so they cooked food from different countries or different regions, and they would find those places on the map, talk about the culture there, the dress, the little bit of the history. I did a music class one time on music of the 1800s, and went through periods of music, American music of the 1800s. And so we learned a lot of the, at the period that the railroads were really being built. We learned a lot of those songs, and we would dress up and things like that. But I was the teacher for that, and so that's the way our co-op ran.
And co-op can also be a good option if you don't want to hire a tutor. If you don't, or you don't have the funds to hire a tutor. If you can get in a co-op and then you're basically splitting the cost or the work, that's a great way to save money. Starting in junior high, How much should a parent realistically expect to spend per child per year?
I would expect to spend at least between, 3,000 to 4,500 U.S. dollars, because again, you're
Per
going to be
year, per child.
per child. Uh, that might go down a little if you have multiple children that are of a similar age. You only need one microscope. You're not going to have to buy one for every person. Now, dissection samples, they each need their own because they need to do that dissecting, individually. But you might, be able to save a little bit if they're of a similar age and are going to be using the same equipment. But, don't skimp on your child's education, and especially in areas of math and sciences and English. Literature, buying good literature, making sure that you have all the resources that they can use that will keep them interested in it, engaged, and also challenge them.
So what are some of the main drivers of the cost at that level then?
I think the materials, the extra materials, now it used to be that books online or like on Kindle were a lot cheaper. That's not the case anymore. You'll spend almost or as much for a book on Kindle as you would to order the book itself. Kindle can be, of course, very convenient. You don't have the shipping costs. Your child can take the book, it's accessible to them really at any place. And storage, where we live, mold is a real problem. And if you're going to have a lot of paper books, especially like literature books that you're not using all the time, so they're not getting opened and fanned, they're not getting aired out regularly, they're going to mold and get that stale smell. We all love the smell of a good book, a new book, but not so much when it has been sitting on the shelf for a couple of years and hasn't been opened because the last student to use it was, a couple of years ago. So all of those are factors. And the online books, the electronic books have so much more capability now. Some of them reading out loud to you. You don't have to have the separate audio file. You can always highlight what you want and print out your highlights later, so it's easy to get back to the quotes that you wanted to access for writing papers or answering questions. But books are going to be a major expense in addition to scientific equipment.
Yeah, and I will say though, I recommend that you don't buy all of your books online. If you can get at least even for literature, just something about holding a book is going to be useful to your child. The studies have shown again and again, they tend to learn reading a little bit better when they're holding a book as opposed to looking at yet another screen. I'm a big fan of wanting to limit the screen time as much as possible.
I am too. It just, if you have several children, you're gonna, you're gonna have to compromise somewhere,
right? Because
you're not gonna be able to have all those books, and especially paperback books, so that they are lighter in weight. Again, which is a shipping cost. Or even if you're bringing the books yourself, if you go to your home country and bring the books back with you, just the sheer weight. One year we had a team bring our books. They brought 250 pounds of curriculum.
So these are for expats homeschooling,
yes.
Obviously. If you're already in the U.S., you don't need to worry about
that's
that.
That's right. But it was that much, and there was a 50-pound limit on bags. Obviously, this was a big team, so they could spread it out. But that's a lot of weight to be carrying if you're having to, carry your own books. And I don't even want to think what it would have cost to have that shipped here.
Hey, that's PE, pick up those books.
Yeah, you get that suitcase.
Okay. All right, and then high school is going to be the most expensive. So how much would a parent expect to spend, that's a parent in the U.S. expect to spend per child and per year?
Well, certainly I would say 3,000 as the bottom, because most curriculums that are anywhere right now, currently, $500 to $600 for 1 year of one subject. So if they are having a 5-subject day, which is normal in high school, or even 6, if they don't have a study hall and they have 6 classes through the year, that's $3,000 right there. If it's only $500, for the materials for that one class. So it can get expensive. However, it is far less expensive than tuition
at a private school.
Right, at the private school. So, you want to plan for it. Again, you want to.
You remember, in high school is when you're probably going to need to start bringing, especially your science teachers.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it starts getting to the level that you may not be able to teach that subject. So high school is really going to get expensive, and that's actually, the high school level is where I see a lot of parents sending their children to public school or to private school, just because of having to get in teachers, and the specimens, the curriculum is just going to be really, really expensive. And by that time, they should have pretty much the values that you want them to have. So don't feel like a failure if, especially the last 2 years of high school, you decide to send them to a public school or private school. But just know that high school will be the costliest portion of your child's education. So let's go into some, I want to do this segment specific, money saving. Your best bet for money saving is to get in touch with other parents. Because with other parents, you can share curriculums, you can share books, teaching co-ops. Just getting with other homeschoolers is going to be your number one way to save money.
Mm-hmm. That's really true, and very often it worked for us one year that a student joined us in our homeschool. She was Korean, and her mother came and taught Korean in our school, in our homeschool, in kind of as a trade for us teaching her daughter with us, and so that was a win-win situation for both of us.
Yeah, and another family I work with, the dad is really good at math, and then he's really good at teaching writing. So he teaches his daughter how to write in English, and then he teaches his son math. So you can most homeschoolers are really nice, and they're in the same boat as you. They don't have an unlimited budget, and so they want to do the best for their child, but without breaking the bank. So just your best resource is going to be other homeschoolers.
That's true. They are. It's such an encouragement all the way around, both with the curriculum, with teaching, being able to share teaching responsibilities, but also just the encouragement, because there are days that it's really tough and you wonder if you made the right decision, and is this really good for your child or for you or for your family? And you can more easily bounce those questions off of other homeschooling families who know what that's like, and can also help you determine if you're headed down a good path, or you don't want to just throw it all in just because you had a tough day.
And another thing I want to talk about before we finish this video is I strongly encourage you not to just try and pull all this free stuff off the internet. That there's good things on the internet for sure, and we're going to be creating some materials, but you don't know where that material is created from. And if you don't have a comprehensive curriculum, you're just going to make it that much harder for yourself. So you may have saved a few bucks by just pulling free stuff off the internet, but you're going to lose it very quickly in your time, and maybe even the education quality. So it's not just, I'm going to pull this off the internet. I'm going to pull that off the internet. You got to have if you don't want to or cannot invest in a curriculum, you've got to have a plan for the whole year, not just plan for this month and plan for that month.
Yeah. I think most departments of education, as far as for the U.S., most states will have a list of skills and learning objectives for each year that the child should have mastered those concepts, or the ability to do those things by a certain age, and you should keep that in mind. I really encourage you. That's very difficult to do, even if you know that by the end of the year they need to know, this list of 50 things. As much as you can research on the sequence of teaching those things, because it's important. One thing really does build upon another, and you can inadvertently leave something foundational out at an earlier point that's going to come back to bite you later. And we're like, as teachers, we're like anybody else. We gravitate towards what we're good at and what worked for us, what we enjoy. We do that in all kinds of areas, from meal planning, where we have the same things over and over and over again because it's what we like and we know what we like, or it's easy to fix, or we always have those ingredients on hand. Well, with teaching, it's no different. We will, if we're just coming up with our own curriculum, frequently we will teach to our own strength. And that can come back to hurt your child's total preparation.
Exactly. Well, I think we pretty much covered everything. Is there anything else you want to?
No.
All right. Well, we hope that you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for your time. Bye.
Bye.